Hello, and welcome to All About Nature, your source for reliable nature videos that are kid-friendly and educational. If you like the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing. In today's video, we're going to look at 10 animals that are believed to be extinct by many, but that still have some hope for being found alive. We live in a big world, but with exponential population growth and a lack of policies that protect our natural environment, we're currently seeing a shocking number of species disappear forever. Thankfully, there is still hope, and sometimes it can be surprising how resilient life can be. So let's get started and look at 10 extinct animals that might still be alive. The Galapagos Islands is a chain of 21 islands located about 1,000 kilometers or 620 miles off the coast of Ecuador. They're a hotspot for unique species and are famous for inspiring Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. They're home to 13 living species of giant tortoise, but there used to be more. One of those missing species is the Pinta Island tortoise. After several expeditions collected specimens from the islands to take back to London, the Pinta Island tortoise was officially described in 1877, but the tortoise wasn't seen alive again until 1971, when a single male specimen, known as Lonesome George, was discovered in the wild. George was relocated to an enclosure with two females of another species of giant tortoise from the islands. While the females did produce eggs, they never hatched. Extensive searches were done to try to locate a female for George, but sadly none was ever found. In 2012, Lonesome George was found dead in his enclosure from heart failure. He was estimated to be 100 years old. The Pinta Island tortoise was declared extinct, but researchers didn't give up hope that a Pinta Island tortoise may still be found alive. The same year that Lonesome George died, a team from Yale found 17 tortoises on Isabella Island that had one parent that was a Pinta Island tortoise, giving hope that the species was still out there. Through the centuries, sailors regularly moved the tortoises to different islands, assuming they were all one species. So the search is still on for the Pinta Island tortoise, and scientists are considering the possibility of using the 17 hybrid tortoises to selectively breed the Pinta Island tortoise back into existence. Native only to the island of Maui in the US state of Hawaii, the Maui Akepa hasn't had a reported sighting since 1988, with the last reliable sighting being in 1970. It's a small species of honeycreeper that feeds primarily on insects. While officially classified as critically endangered, the lack of sightings over the last 30 years means it's presumed extinct. 100 years ago, these birds were abundant on Maui. However, with the introduction of non-native plants and animals, the Akepa lost much of their food source. They also proved to be highly susceptible to avian flu, which was carried by introduced mosquitoes. No birds were found in rare bird searches throughout the 1990s. However, more recently, there have been some reports of their calls being heard in the higher elevations on the island of Maui. So while they are likely gone, there is some faint hope that a few might be holding on in remote forests. Thankfully, another subspecies of Akepa is still alive today on the Big Island of Hawaii, while the Oahu subspecies has also gone extinct. Ivory-Billed woodpeckers are one of the largest species of woodpecker to have ever lived. Once found throughout the southeastern United States and the island of Cuba, this woodpecker measured 51 centimeters or 20 inches in length. They fed primarily on beetle grubs, which they bored out of dead wood with their powerful beaks, but also fed on fruit and nuts. These birds required large tracts of forest in order to forage for sufficient food. With a preference for swamps and old-growth forests, the birds decreased in number rapidly as these habitats were highly exploited by human development throughout the 20th century. The last confirmed sighting of an ivory-billed woodpecker in the United States was in the state of Louisiana in 1944. The last sighting in Cuba was almost 40 years later, in 1987. Over the past few decades, there have been unconfirmed sightings of the bird, with many of them coming from credible sources. However, the similar pileated woodpecker is often found to be the bird that was actually seen. In the late 1960s, a feather was recovered from an empty nest, which was confirmed to be the wing feather from an ivory-billed woodpecker, but the age of the feather could not be determined. When someone claimed to see one in Cache River National Wildlife Refuge in the U.S. state of Arkansas in 2004, a team was deployed to search for the birds. They managed to produce a short video, which the Arkansas Audubon Society accepted as legitimate, prompting them to purchase 18,000 acres of land to help protect the bird. Other experts disagreed, however, and published papers claiming that the bird in question was once again a pileated woodpecker. The video is still disputed. There have been many other sightings and searches for the bird, but the lack of clear photo or video evidence has left its status as being probably extinct. The very similar imperial woodpecker of Mexico is also considered extinct and has had many disputed sightings over the last 70 years. Known only from one specimen collected in the Solomon Islands in 1990, the Montane monkey-faced bat is likely extinct. Collected on Mount Makaracamburu at an elevation of over 1,200 meters, or 3,900 feet, this bat is a species of megabat, whose Latin name means beautiful. Megabats can get huge, with wingspans up to 1.5 meters or 5 feet. But the Montane monkey-faced bat is the smallest recorded species of megabat, with a wingspan of less than 30 centimeters or 1 foot. This species of bat has beautiful black and white markings on its wings, red eyes, and yellowish fur. Its ears were black, with white fur at the base. Because only a single female has ever been found, little is known about the biology of this species. The IUCN classifies it as critically endangered, estimating that if it is still alive, it likely has a population of less than 50 individuals. Another species that's officially listed as critically endangered, but thought to be extinct, is Alcorn's pocket gopher. Native to Mexico, these small rodents were considered to be pests that destroyed the bean and corn crops of local farmers. Living only in montane pine oak forests, the gophers were once numerous. However, they had a very limited range in the Sierra del Tigre of South Jalisco. So when farmers began to persecute them in the mid-20th century, they had nowhere to go. None have been seen since the late 1990s. That is, until 2003, when James DeMastis and Jessica Light published a paper on their genetic research of the species. They noted that the scientist who originally described Alcorn's pocket gopher, R.J. Russell, mostly relied on head and dental features to classify it as a new species. DeMastis and Light took a sample from one of the 4 museum specimens in existence today and found that it bears little genetic difference from Buller's pocket gopher, another species which is still common throughout western Mexico. So it is likely that this species never even existed, but it's still classified as its own species today. Tree kangaroos, as the name suggests, are arboreal cousins to Australia's famous kangaroos and wallabies. They are marsupials, carrying their babies in a pouch. In 1928, a tree kangaroo was collected by German biologist Ernst Mayr on the Wondimoi Peninsula of West Papua. Initially thought to be a Doria's tree kangaroo, it was later described as being a distinct species due to its unique coloration, and the findings were published in 1933. What no one knew was that another specimen would never be found. Over the decades, the identity of this species of tree kangaroo was often disputed, but when genetic research was able to examine the different species of tree kangaroo, it was determined that the Wondiwoi likely deserved its status as its own species. In July of 2018, British naturalist Michael Smith photographed a tree kangaroo in the Wondiwoi Mountains with similar coloration. The photo was taken at an altitude of over 1,600 meters, or 5,200 feet. It's thought that this photograph is the lost Wondiwoi tree kangaroo, though without genetic proof, we cannot say for certain. The area these animals inhabit is rarely accessed by people due to its incredibly difficult terrain. Probably the best known animal on our list, the thylacine has reached celebrity status as an extinct species that may still be alive. Once native to mainland Australia, New Guinea, and Tasmania, when it was alive it was the largest carnivorous marsupial in the world, being about the same size as an Australian shepherd dog. By the time European settlers arrived in Australia, the thylacine had already disappeared from mainland Australia and New Guinea, so its range was limited to the island of Tasmania. They had distinctive black stripes on their backs, which gave rise to their common name, Tasmanian tiger. Because they were viewed as pests to farm animals, people began to hunt them tirelessly. By the early 1900s, the Australian government started paying bounties for dead thylacines. £1 per adult, 10 shillings per pup. Bounties for over 2,000 animals were claimed, with many more likely killed and never turned in. By the late 1920s, the thylacine was extremely rare in the wild. In 1930, the last known wild thylacine was shot and killed, and in 1936, the last captive thylacine died in Australia's Hobart Zoo. Over the next 30 years, many credible sightings were made. Footprints, scat, and even entire bodies of the animal were said to have been found. However, no records were officially made. Between 1967 and 1973, zoologist Jeremy Griffith and dairy farmer James Malley conducted extensive searches for the thylacine along Tasmania's west coast, but no conclusive evidence was found. In 1982, the thylacine was declared extinct, but the reports haven't stopped coming in. Hundreds of reports of thylacines have come from Tasmania, mainland Australia, and New Guinea over the years, with Aboriginal people and park rangers among those reporting having seen the animals alive and well. But until definite proof can be presented, its continued existence in the wild is still unknown. The Japanese wolf was a subspecies of gray wolf native only to the islands of Honshu, Shikoku, and Kyushu in the Japanese archipelago. It was one of two now extinct canid species on the Japanese islands. In Japanese folklore, they were viewed as protectors to travelers, messengers of the kami spirits, and guardians of the mountains. With historical records going as far back as AD 713, the wolf was well recorded in Japan for centuries. The first bounty for the animal was introduced in 1701, and by 1742, professional hunters were using poison and firearms to kill the wolves. After the introduction of rabies to the archipelago, killing the wolves was a national policy, and the last known animal was officially killed in 1905 in Honshu Nara Prefecture. There have been several credible sightings over the last century, with one as recent as the year 2000. In some cases, it is believed that feral dogs were mistaken as wolves. In one case, it was confirmed to have simply been a Shikoku dog. Of the 9 recognized tiger subspecies, 3 have gone extinct, and 2 of those are in the densely populated nation of Indonesia. The Javan tiger was distinct from other subspecies, being slightly smaller than most, with more numerous, long, thin stripes and a longer, more narrow nose. The Javan tiger lived only on the island of Java, the most populated island in the world, with over 85 million people calling it home in the 1970s when the tiger went extinct. Due to the massive increase in human population, all but 8% of the island's forests were cleared for farming, mainly rice fields. Tigers and their prey were poisoned. The population was fragmented and unable to breed. Their most important prey, the Rusa deer, were eliminated from Java, and armed conflict in the 1960s saw militants retreat to the remaining forests where they killed the last of the tigers. The last confirmed sighting of a Javan tiger was in 1979. Efforts were made to save the tiger in the 60s, but it was too late. Their prey was already gone. Sightings of the tiger continued with frequency in East Java through the 90s, with the Indonesian government establishing several wildlife reserves and training guard forces to protect any tigers that might remain. Prints and scat were found several times, but no cats were sighted. Camera traps were set up in Batiri National Park between 1993 and 1994, but no tigers were captured. Very few of their prey species were photographed, and sadly, more poachers were captured on camera than animals. Sightings and animal attacks continued up until 2017, when a man claimed to photograph a tiger eating on a dead water buffalo. The photo went viral, but it was later determined to be a highly endangered Javan leopard. But if the Javan tiger does still roam the forests of the island, it's almost certainly on the mountain slopes of East Java, where the majority of recent sightings have taken place. Native only to the country of Taiwan, the Formosan clouded leopard was first described by science in 1862. It was thought to be a subspecies of clouded leopard, but genetic research has since determined that it may not merit a subspecies classification. Aboriginal Taiwanese hunters claimed to see it alive for the last time in 1983, while the skin of a juvenile was found in Taroko National Park in 1989 and is considered the last record of the leopard. It was declared extinct in Taiwan in 2013. Between 1997 and 2012, over 1,450 camera traps were set up. Over the course of 15 years, many of its prey species were recorded, but not a single leopard was captured on camera. However, in 2018, 2 different groups of park rangers claimed to see leopards climbing trees and hunting. Rangers are often considered more credible eyewitnesses because of their familiarity with the fauna of the area. However, no conclusive result has been published about these reports. It could be that this elusive cat still lives in Taiwan. But if it is in fact the same species as the clouded leopards on the mainland, there is hope for reintroduction of the species to the island, and maybe one day they will be a more common sight in Taiwanese forests. And that wraps up our list of 10 extinct animals that still might be clinging onto life somewhere in our world. It's essential that we work to make our world the best it can be for all of its inhabitants. What's an animal you hope is still alive out there? Thanks again for watching. Please remember to give me a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And remember, get out there, enjoy our natural world, and help take care of it.